بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين، نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. My brothers and sisters in Islam, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We continue, inshallah, from where we were left before the break for Salat. We were talking about the states of i'rab, and we mentioned that there are 4 possible states of i'rab. What are they? الرفع والنصب والجر والجزم. And by the way, there is this importance of listing things in a particular order. Memorize them in that order and always list them in that order. What's the benefit of this? If you know their number and you know how to say them, if you miss something, you will know that something is missing, and you will know which one is missing. So try to see what logic there is in listing them in that particular way. Usually there is a logic where ulama, scholars will mention things in a certain order. There's a logic behind it. If you get exposed to that, if you get taught this, alhamdulillah. If not, you try to make your own logic and learn them in that way. But every time you list them also in that way. So we listed al-rafa first. Rafa is the most honorable of states. The most important components of a sentence would be in a state of rafa. Second to that is al-nasb. Third to that is al-jar. Fourth to that is al-jazm. So when you list them like this. So we spoke about these 4 states being available states of i'rab for what? For ism and fi'l mudari'. Obviously, now there's a gap here, gap in the knowledge, which I'm going to fill now with this diagram that I will share with you. Diagrams can be a very helpful tool. Look at this diagram. What this diagram is speaking about here is at the top here, you have al-kalima. Is it readable? Al-kalima. Al-kalima. Al-kalima, words within a sentence. They can be of 3 possible categories. What are they? Al-ism, al-fi'l, al-harf. Yeah? Al-ismu wal-fi'lu. And that's understandable, Sufyan. At the beginning, this will happen. But soon you will capture the terminology. So ism is most honorable. Second to that is fi'l. Third to that is harf. So these are the 3 categories. Now, so far as i'rab, or the opposite of i'rab is what? Bina. Bina. I'rab meaning for the ism or for the word to be showing the sign of i'rab at the end of it. This is a word that is mu'raba. A word that doesn't change, doesn't respond, is called mabni, and the concept is called bina. So there's a concept called i'rab. The opposite of that is bina. Al-i'rabu wal-bina. And the word can be mabni word, or the opposite of it will be mu'rab. Mu'rab is responsive. It responds to awamil. Mabni, not responsive. No matter what amil comes into it, it will not change. Right? So now this diagram will show us that in a sentence, every word you come across in a sentence will be one of these possible 4 categories. Ismun, fi'lun, or harfun. See, I'm listing them in the same order. Ism first, fi'l, and then lastly, harf. Now, so far as i'rab and bina is concerned, for example, let's go with harf. Harf is always mabni. Harf is always mabni. Mean nothing can come before harf that will ever change it. If it's ala, for example, it will always be ala, no matter what comes before it. If it's ba, harf al-ba, or fi, it will always be like that. The kaf, the lam, these huruf are huruf al-jar. Huruf in general, will they ever change as a result of something coming before them? No, so it's mabni. Nothing changes about them. So they say it's مبني. So الحروف, what it says in the diagram, الحروف كلها مبنية. All حروف, every حرف in a sentence is مبني. Now when it comes to فعل, what types of أفعال do we have? ماضي, مضارع, and أمر. They don't always, all of them have the same ruling when it comes to إعراب البناء. ماضي, and you know what ماضي is by now, sir? ماضي is past tense. ماضي is always مبني. No matter what comes before it, it will never change. But as you will see later on, it could change as a result of something coming in front of it. But that's not إعراب to us. But we will have a section in which we study how do we do إعراب for الفعل الماضي. إعراب in the sense of grammatical analysis. But otherwise, إعراب in the sense of changing the end part of it, it's not going to change. ماضي doesn't change. So now, can you see now, we use the إعراب in two ways. One way to say that this word changes. We will do إعراب for this word as in, we will change the end of it, appropriate change to the عامل. That's called the إعراب. But we also use the word إعراب to represent the process of analyzing a word. And in that regard, we can use إعراب to analyze معرب word and مبني word. We will analyze both of them, right? But when it comes to the first type of إعراب, the first meaning of إعراب, whereby you actually change the end part of a word, this إعراب is only exclusive to what? معرب words, responsive words. مبني words, they don't change. You got this one? So I said to you, ماضي, so far as responding to عوامل, it will never respond to any عامل. So it's مبني in that regard. But we will do إعراب for it in the sense of grammatical analysis. We will look at one word and we'll say فعل ماض مبني على الفتح. We will say a few things about them, whatever will help us to understand why it has the حركة it has. Right? So that's ماضي. ماضي is always what? مبني. And we have أمر, فعل الأمر. We covered this one yesterday. فعل الأمر is a فعل that has the connotation of request or instruction, as well as accepting يا المخاطبة and نون التوكيد. We covered it. أمر is always also مبني, non-responsive. It doesn't respond to عوامل, to influences, to words that come before them. It will never respond. It's always fixed. طيب مبني. So now from فعل we have ماضي, always مبني. أمر, always مبني. طيب مضارع is a type of فعل that responds in the most part, 80% of the time, 90% of the time, it will respond to عوامل. طيب فعل مضارع. And it has two instances in which it doesn't respond to عوامل. So you can see here, معرب in the most part. Can you see here? معرب. فعل مضارع. معرب. I don't know if is the writing clear? So فعل مضارع here is معرب in the most part. 90%, 95% of the time. Only مبني in two instances. We will cover them. So we will have a section whereby we'll be studying فعل مضارع, the إعراب of فعل مضارع, and we'll cover this. طيب. And I mentioned to you before the salat that in the معرب parts, فعل مضارع can have 5 possible types, and we will tackle them one by one, and we'll say how they will have إعراب, but they change in terms of how they have the marking at the end of it. Okay? In the مبني, there will be two cases in which the إعراب, the فعل مضارع will become non-responsive. It will become مبني. مضارع, then obviously the ماضي is called ماضي because it's in the past tense. أمر is called أمر because it's imperative. أمر means command, instruction. So it's an instruction. So why is it called مضارع? فعل مضارع, why is it called مضارع? مضارع يعني مشابه. It resembles, it mimics, it's likened to. That's what مضارع literally means. And it's likened to the اسم. Likened in the اسم because اسم is معرب in the most part. 95% of the time, اسم is معرب. So مضارع is responsive just like the ism. So rather than calling it anything else, they call it the fi'l that is similar to the ism. So the word mudari' means mushabih, the one that is likened to ism. In what sense? In the sense that ism is mu'rab in the most part, and in few cases it's mabni, right? Same thing with mudari'. Mudari' is mu'rab, responsive in the most part, but it's mabni in few cases. Look at the ism here. Ism is mu'rab in the most part, 95% of the time. There are few cases here. Can you see them? No, numbered. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's a subset of mabni ism that is mabni. Right? The comprehensive list will be 10, roughly. Right? So again, we will study them one by one. So mu'rab is also categories. It's not just one category. There are categories. Remember how we said fi'l mudari' is 5 categories? معرب الاسم المعرب is also 10 categories. So how do we study نحو? We will go through the معربات, the ism, for example, معرب, and we'll tackle all the different types that could come. All of them are responsive, 10 of them. But in what way do they change? In what way do they differ? Sorry. They differ in how they show the Arab, how they show the state of Arab. The most basic one, the default one, shows rafi' by dhamma, and shows nasb by fatha, and shows jar with kasra. But that's the default one. And we have 9 other possibilities that will have a variation on how they show the state of Arab. طيب? So this here, the mu'rab, is 10 categories below it. We will study Nahu by going through them one by one. And if I was to test you in that, we will need the template. We need our template. جاء رأيت وسلمت على. Is that making sense? طيب. And when it comes to the mabni, some of them can be put in the جاء سلمت على, جاء رأيت سلمت على. So we will put them there and we will demonstrate that they don't change. طيب. When it comes to the fi'l mudari', we will have a lesson for it. So now we will have a lesson section in which we're going to study each one of the 10 possible mu'rabat of asma. Mu'rab, asma, that's mu'raba. And also we're going to go through the mabni word, the mabni isms, the asma mu'raba, like one by one. And we will show and demonstrate that they don't change, no matter what happens, no matter what comes before them. We will have i'rab for the madi, fi'l madi. And we will demonstrate that fi'l madi doesn't change, mabni, fixed. And mudari', we will also demonstrate that it has 5 cases in which it's mu'rab, which is the vast majority of encounters you will have with the fi'l mudari'. In only 2 instances, as you can see here, 2 instances, fi'l mudari' will become mabni, i.e. non-responsive. If you put them on, Muhammadun gab, then the fi'l, Muhammadun lan, then the fi'l, Muhammadun lam, then the fi'l, you will find it fixed, not changing, because they are fi'l mudari' mabni. So that will be also a dars. We will study this in one lesson. And then fi'l al-amr is also mabni. We will have a lesson for it. And then with regards to the huruf is something that we will probably finish Al-Aajuroomiyah, and we will never need to do i'rab for them. What we will need to consider is if they become awamil, which one of them are awamil, influences of other words. But they themselves will always be mabni. You will never come across any harf that is mu'rab. Is that clear? طيب. So that's one thing. So I hope now you have an idea of how we're going to go about studying Nahu. طيب. Something else aside from this, I would like to explain to you. I don't believe this. Okay, something else we need just to cover. Remember, we spoke about the type of kalam, أقسام الكلام or أنواع الكلام. We studied this in the last 2 sessions. What did we say about them? أنواع الكلام. What's أنواع الكلام? It's very basic. اسم فعل وحرف. طيب اسم هذا أنواع الكلام. And we say this is أنواع الكلام from what perspective? If we are looking at the components of the كلام. طيب that's why I would think that أنواع الكلمة would be more clear for a learner. طيب but also there's another category, another categorization of كلام with regards to the whole sentence. طيب and that is two types. So you can say أنواع الكلام in terms of as a whole, not as a component, as components within the sentence, right? So أنواع الكلام. No, again, nothing here is كلام. Nothing here is out of the logical thing that you will have in your mind. Two types, two basic types. One, جملة اسمية. Two, جملة فعلية. We cannot progress without considering this. Because remember the sentences I gave you, the templates, they are basically جملة فعلية. We have to actually look into that. We can't study unless until we go through it. جملة اسمية وجملة فعلية. Let me put the حركات on this one. جملة اسمية وجملة فعلية. I was to give you example. جملة اسمية is a جملة that begins with an اسم that is مرفوع. طيب an اسم a جملة that begins with an اسم that is مرفوع. جملة اسمية. So I would say here and جملة here جملة means collection. Literally جملة means collection of words, a string of words. That makes sense. It will be جملة اسمية if it begins طيب it begins اسم that is in a state of رفع. Struggle to accept. We'll give the messy typing here. So this is what how I would define this for you. What is جملة اسمية? جملة اسمية begins with an اسم that is in a state of رفع. I will give you examples obviously. Huh? جملة فعلية obviously begins with a فعل. طيب فاعل. You write this one in the way that's easily clear. So we have جملة اسمية. This is what? A sentence that begins with اسم مرفوع. جملة اسمية. A sentence that begins with اسم مرفوع. جملة فعلية is a sentence that begins with فعل. Let's take examples for the جملة اسمية. جملة اسمية. الكتاب مفيد. Obviously, in this case, the sentences, the examples will be very simple examples to demonstrate the idea. الكتاب مفيد. Does that make sense? الكتاب مفيد. Look at the first اسم here. Can you see what it is? الكتاب means the book. Can you see it's an اسم? Huh? Can you see also that it is مرفوع? So what type of sentence is this? جملة اسمية. جملة اسمية. Now let's take another example. محمد عالم. عالم. الكتاب مفيد. So the translation of that, الكتاب, the book, مفيد, beneficial, صح? And in the translation, you will see that you have to add is between them, صح? The book is beneficial. The book is beneficial. طيب. محمد عالم. عالم means scholar, knowledgeable. Muhammad is knowledgeable. Muhammad is knowledgeable. But in both cases, do you see that the sentence begins with an ism that is marfu'? Yeah? Typically, this, yeah. So that's جملة اسمية. جملة فعلية, on the other hand, is when, sorry, you're writing? Sven. Yeah? You okay? So this is جملة فعلية, جملة اسمية, in the most basic form. جملة اسمية. طيب. It consists of two words in its very basic form. The first one is called مبتدأ. مبتدأ. Have you heard of this word before? مبتدأ, basically it means the word the sentence begins with. Yeah? مبتدأ. I will write it here. I'll say مبتدأ. مبتدأ. طيب. Well, the second word is خبر. خبر. So basically, مبتدأ literally means the word with which the sentence begins. That's what it means. It has to be اسم and it has to be مرفوع. The خبر on its base, the خبر is the adjective or the news or whatever we are reporting about that اسم. Okay? So خبر means like news, صح? Literally it means news. Okay? So whatever we are informing the listener. So now if I'm speaking to you, I will say الكتاب مفيد. So I have informed you that the book is beneficial. So مفيد here is خبر. So you have مبتدأ and خبر. طيب. This is the contents, the components, the basic components for a جملة اسمية. Any جملة اسمية must have these two components. In other words, whenever you come across, whenever you begin the sentence and you find, oh, this is اسم مرفوع, what should you be looking for? You say, this is my مبتدأ. You should be looking for what? The خبر. You say, where is my خبر? طيب. Can you have a جملة اسمية? In English, they call it nominal sentence. Can you have a nominal sentence, a جملة اسمية, that doesn't have مبتدأ? No. Can you have a جملة اسمية that doesn't have خبر? These are basic components, pillar components. طيب. Can the Jumla Ismiyah have other words? Yes, but they will not be pillar components. They will be supplementary components. Mukammilat, they call them in the Arabic language. Mukammilat mean additional supplemental words. We will study them. Right? But what you have to know about Jumla Ismiyah, it has to begin with an ism that is marfu'. This is a must. And it must have also a khabar. When you come across a sentence and you notice that it begins with ism marfu', immediately you have to assume I have to look for a khabar. Right? This is basic component. Huh? Mufidun will be the khabar. The word al-kitabu is mubtada. Okay? We will do the i'rab of it. Muhammad here, Muhammadun alimun. Muhammad is what? What's the role of Muhammad? Mubtada. Alimun? Khabar. The news or the adjective that you are attributing to the mubtada. So you are assigning some form of information, some form of description to whatever you mentioned at the beginning, the word, the ism that you mentioned at the beginning. So in the first example, what's the word that we mentioned at the beginning? Al-Kitab. What description or what news or what adjective are we assigning to it? Mufidun, beneficial. So that is the khabar. Right? That's, the khabar. The khabar is a word I'm sure you're familiar with. Huh? The same thing with here. Muhammadun is mubtada, alimun is khabar. Right? Now, جملة فعلية. جملة فعلية is basically a jumla that begins with فعل. Right? For example, جاء محمد. That's our template now coming to picture. So our template sentences, all of them are جملة فعلية. So we have جاء محمد, and we have what? رأيت محمدا, and we have what? سلمت على محمد. To محمدا وسلمت على محمد. See, this is what made us study this, because it's part of our basic template. We have to look into this. So can you see that all these three examples, which is basically our template, and Muhammad is the ism that we place there for examination. Okay. So all of them, when you look at this one, is this one beginning with the fi'l or ism? So that's your جملة فعلية. That's your clue. جملة فعلية. طيب, رأيت here, is it beginning with اسم مرفوع or with فعل? فعل. So that's جملة فعلية. سلمت على, it begins with سلمت. Is it فعل or اسم? فعل. So all of them are جملة فعلية. طيب, what is really crucial, what is really important here is to know that جملة فعلية, the pillar components of a جملة فعلية, the pillar components, the must-have components for جملة فعلية is what? فعل and فاعل. فعل and فاعل. فعل is the verb and فاعل is the doer of that verb. So in this case here, look, can you see this is the most basic one. جاء فعل, that's the verb, the event, the action that took place, and the doer of that action. The doer of that action is called فاعل. So فعل وفعل. So these two here, they are the most basic components of a جملة فعلية. You cannot have a جملة فعلية that doesn't have these two basic components. You can add other components, but they will be complementary, مكملات. They will not be seen as basics. They are not basic, meaning you can omit whatever is extra and the sentence will still stand, will still be informative. طيب. Whereas these two, جاء, the word جاء and the word محمد, if you remove one of them, the sentence will not stand. طيب. Because you removed one of its pillars. So if you say جاء, you will say what? كلام غير مفيد. For it to be كلام مفيد, مفيد means beneficial, meaningful, that you can stop at and the listener will have gained some information from you. It has to have basically at least فعل and a فاعل next to it. Is that okay? For example, I could add here, look, جاء إلى البيت. I could add this one, إلى البيت. Can you see this? I've just added two more words to this sentence. They add more meaning, right? But they're not the basic components, not pillar components, meaning their removal will not render the sentence incomprehensible or unmeaningful. Right? But the removal of any of these two, جاء and Muhammad, because they are basic, the removal of any one of them they are أركان ركن الجملة ركني الجملة الفعلية. The two pillars of a جملة فعلية is what? فعل and فاعل. Right? So that by the same token now, if you begin a جملة فعلية, and you can see a فعل in front of you, you should always be looking out for where is my فاعل. Where is my فاعل? طيب. In this case here, as you will find later, that رأيت, this two here is the فاعل. Meaning two means me, I. رأي means so. So I, the red one, and then the black one is so. I so. So these two are what? The basic components. And Muhammadan here is informative, but not basic components. I can remove Muhammadan and the sentence will still stand. Why? Because I still have here my basic components. My rukn, my pillar component. أركان الجملة الفعلية. The pillars of a verbal sentence, of a جملة فعلية, are what? The فعل and the فاعل. If you have them, this is meaningful. If one of them is missing, it's not meaningful. So we have the أركان of جملة اسمية are what? المبتدأ والخبر. Like I said to you, these are new words probably to you. Run them under your breath as I speak them. المبتدأ والخبر. المبتدأ والخبر. These are the pillar components of a جملة اسمية. This جملة here. جملة اسمية. طيب. The pillar components for جملة اسمية are what? المبتدأ والخبر. طيب. The pillar components for الجملة الفعلية are what? فعل وفاعل. These are the basic components. Are there supplementary, complementary components? Yes. But the removal of them will not render the sentence incomprehensible. And sometimes you might find in your study of Nahu, you might find that once you recognize something to be extra, you will say, for clarity purposes, I will temporarily remove it to see what's happening in the sentence. Because those extra components, they can clutter the sentence and they will confuse you. So once you realize something to be extra, until you figure out what's going on in the sentence, when the sentence is long-winded, right, you remove what you know is extra, and that will leave you with less clutter, and then you'll be able to see what's going on. So these are جملة فعلية and جملة اسمية. طيب, sometimes you might come across something like this. Who can read this? Who can read this sentence? Yeah. في البيت رجل. What does it mean? In the house, there's a man. Right? Now, when you get the sentence, what does it begin with? It begins with harf. Now, this is going to cause us to panic because we're used to Jumla Ismiya is the one that begins with ism, and Jumla Fi'liya is the one that begins with fi'l. Now, this begins with neither. Right? So, what I will not use this word to determine the type of sentence. I'm looking for one of two. I will keep on progressing in the sentence until I find one of the two, either ism marfu' or fi'l. So this is harfu jar. And this is an ism that's majroor. Ism that's majroor. So it's not going to help me determine the type of sentence. What do I need for the type of sentence? Either ism marfu' or fi'l. Until I find one of these two, I will keep progressing. So this didn't help me determine, fi did not help me determine the type of sentence. This didn't help me determine the type of sentence. طيب. And now I have what? Ismun marfu'. Ism that's marfu'. So what does this tell me? I'm dealing with jumla ismiyya. Because you know when you deal with the kalam, when you deal with the jumla, to do grammatical analysis of it, what do you need to know? First question is, what am I dealing with? Jumla ismiya or jumla fi'liya? If jumla ismiya, I need to find what my mubtada is and where is my khabar. If I'm dealing with jumla fi'liya, I need to find out where is my fi'l and where is my fa'il. And if there are any extra components, I will recognize them. But basically, I'm looking for my basic components. Does that make sense? So the first step in you doing grammatical analysis, you will need to identify the type of sentence you're dealing with. Is it jumla ismiya or is it jumla fi'liya? Is this much making sense? طيب. And to determine a jumla ismiya, and they are the only two types of sentences. You will never come across anything else. They are the only two types of sentences. So in order to determine jumla ismiya, a nominal sentence, you keep on reading from the beginning of it until you come across what? Ism marfu'. Ism marfu'. It has to be ism marfu'. Or fi'l. So you keep on going one word at a time. You keep progressing until you find either ism marfu' or fi'l. If you find ism marfu', you say, I'm dealing with jumla ismiya. Therefore, in my head, I'll be expecting what? Fi'l and fa'il and the complementary components of a jumla fi'liya. The peripheral components, the optional components of a jumla fi'liya. I know what to expect. When I'm dealing with jumla ismiya, I know my basic component should be what? Mubtada and khabar. Are there any supplementary components? Yes, possibly, there could be, but I know that they will be of a certain type. But the first question always to determine what is my jumla. Right? Let's look at this one. Look at the sentence. Can you tell me what type of sentence is this? Jumla ismiya or jumla fi'liya? Huh? Jumla ismiya? How is it ismiya? Huh? Fi'liya, yes. It's fi'liya. Huh? Yeah, because the first ism now is not marfu'. So I come across the first ism and I'll find that this is not ism marfu'. It doesn't help me. I'm looking for one of two things, either ism marfu' or fi'l. So this is not going to help me. So I'm going to jump to the following word. The following word, what is it? Akala. Oh, that's fi'l. So automatically I know this is a jumla fi'liya. Okay? So you come across harf jar or whatever harf, you don't care about it. You come across ism majroor, you don't care about it. You come across ism mansoob, you don't care about it. You come across ism marfu', that determines it's my jumla ismiya.
if you have a sentence
Mm.
with two isms, right?
Mm.
But the first one is not marfu', it's not.
It's not ismiyah. So now look, we have a sentence. This sentence begins with jumla with ism that is not marfu'. I will not use it to determine the type of sentence. I will go to the following word. And I look at the following word, I'm looking for either ism marfu' or fi'l. So is this one ism marfu' or fi'l? The answer is yes, it's fi'l. So it's telling me I'm dealing with jumla fi'liyah. So in its most basic form, jumla fi'liyah will begin with a fi'l like these ones. This begins with a fi'l. Came. Muhammad came. رأيت. Saw. I saw. Muhammad. سلمت. Greeted. I greeted Muhammad. So all these are af'al. So you will have no problem recognizing that this is jumla ismiyah. But sometimes be ready that you could have something like this. طيب. Or something like this even. طيب لو قلنا هنا sorry التفاحة أكل محمد. This is basically a sentence that is reordered. Sometimes they reorder things. It means an apple Muhammad ate. An apple or the apple Muhammad ate the apple. So the original order of the sentence is what? أكل محمد التفاحة. أكل محمد التفاحة. So التفاحة should come as مفعول به should come after the فعل in its basic form. But if you want to change this order for a reason, you can say I'm going to bring it at the beginning, and that will convey a slightly different meaning, right? But still, I'm dealing with جملة اسمية, a جملة فعلية. Does that make sense? So if I say something like this, في المدرسة يتعلم محمد. Now look at this sentence. Now this sentence, what type of sentence am I dealing with? جملة فعلية. So the fact that I have اسم here, sorry, حرف here, it will not help me determine the type of sentence. And then I have what? اسم مجرور. It doesn't help me determine the type of sentence. And now, I've got فعل here. Even though it's the third word, but that's what helped me determine the type of sentence. I can't use محمد to determine the type of sentence because before it I have the فعل. Yeah? So you go in order. And then you determine, this will be your first step in doing i'rab. Right? You're setting your expectations. What am I expecting? جملة اسمية, I'm expecting مبتدأ, خبر as basic, and there will be also some optional components. If I'm dealing with جملة فعلية, I'm dealing with فعل and فاعل as basic pillar components, and therefore I'm looking for also optional components. So this is how you set your mind at the very beginning. And then you're going to look at how words influence one another, what i'rab takes place. This will be second after you've determined the type of sentence. Is that making sense so far? So these two things, I want you to capture them. So the fact that we have two types of sentences, only two types of sentences. In the most basic form, we'll have اسم مرفوع followed with اسم مرفوع. That's in the most basic form. طيب اسم مرفوع followed by another اسم مرفوع. طيب that's in the basic form for جملة اسمية, but this can change. جملة فعلية, it begins with فعل. That's the basic form. It begins with the فعل itself. It begins with the فعل itself. It begins with the فعل itself. طيب, but not always. طيب. Obviously, I'm just setting your mind up, but as we teach you new concept, we will give you the most basic form of sentences. Right? But when you see something like this, you should not be thinking that, there's a third type of sentence. No, there's no third type of sentence. There's only two types of sentences. And the same thing here. No other type of sentences. There's only two types, either جملة اسمية or جملة فعلية. Is that clear? Any confusion in this? Right?
When doing the Arab for sentence, we see first what type of sentence it is.
first.
Then there was a word after.
And then after that, we will set our minds as to usually with this type of sentence, what's at play. You know, what type of words am I expecting? Right? Now, moving on from that, now that we've set this as the basis, now let's move on to this. جاء محمد. There's only two words. And Muhammadun is in a state of rafa because the word جاء there, what it did. I wish I had my pen and my iPad working today. I'll try to make this available next week, inshallah. But let's see, جاء as a word, جاء as a word, what it actually did. جاء as a word, it created in front of it a position of rafa, a position of rafa. Right? And then it's expecting an ism to sit there. Why an ism? Because that's the basic component of جملة فعلية. So we have جملة فعلية consists of فعل, and the فعل is the influencer. What does it do? It creates in front of it a position of رفع. Who is supposed to sit there? فاعل, an ism, and that ism, if it's معرب, we will say it's مرفوع. If it's not مرفوع, we will say it's مبني في محل رفع. A mabni word, meaning a fixed word that doesn't change, but it's sitting in the position of rafa created by jaa. Is this making sense? So let's capture this one more time. This is very important. So the amil always creates in front of it like a plate or a chair. That's the state of rafa or a state of nasb or a state of whatever it may be. And then we look at what sat in that position. If it's a word that is responsive, that shows the sign, we will say marfu' in simple terms. If it's a word that doesn't show the sign, we will say this is a fixed word, already to tell ourselves that yes, there is rafa there, created by jaa, but this non-responsive word is not showing it. So we say this word is mabni. This is to acknowledge that jaa did what it does by creating this position, the position of rafa, right? But because of the word sat there is non-responsive, it's not showing. For example, let me show you. Now we did this. Huh? الفتى. لا الفتى is different. Different to الفتى. الفتى is إعراب تقديري, meaning the change occurred, but it's just difficult to pronounce. Right? Again, we will study that. But let's say جاء هذا. You know what هذا means? هذا. You're pointing at somebody, say this came, this person came. So هذا is really called اسم إشارة. اسم إشارة. جاء هذا ورأيت هذا وسلمت على هذا. So the same. رأيت هذا وسلمت على هذا. You know, as you study anything really, your mind will be jumping ahead, trying to link what you're studying in this particular instant to everything else, try to make sense of everything. Try to deny your brain from doing this. Just focus on taking in what is being said here in this small page, right? Just capture this. Everything else will fall into place later on. Just make sure that don't get overwhelmed. It's not overwhelming unless you try to make sense of the whole thing through this information. Right. So we say رأيت هذا سلمت على هذا. Look at هذا. What happened to هذا here? It didn't change. طيب. Does that mean that جاء as a فعل did not do its job? It did. So what جاء did? جاء, like I said before, جاء did this job. What's its job? It created this position. Which is called محل رفع. محل رفع. In the case of Muhammad, what sat on it was a responsive اسم, معرب اسم, that shows the حركة. طيب. But when هذا sat in this position, now هذا is not going to show. Look at it's هذا, هذا, هذا. So in this case, it sat on a position of رفع. Here it sat in a position of نصب. Here it sat on a position of jar. So now how do we communicate this idea? We will say this ism is mabni, but sitting on a position of rafa. This ism is mabni, meaning, why do we say mabni? Meaning it's not going to show anything at all. It's not the type of ism that shows anything. But we acknowledge that it is sitting in a position of nasb. So for this one, we will say هذا, we say اسم إشارة مبني على السكون في محل رفع. That's the grammatical analysis we will do for this one. في محل رفع, and then we say فاعل. I will tell you this in details, but I'm just giving you this position, this idea of the influencer creating a position in front of it. So let's take this influencer, this رأيت. Now this is a فعل, صح? رأي is a فعل. What did it create in front of it? For the basic component, which is the fa'il, it created the position of rafa, and also created in front of it as well an optional position of nasb for the maf'ul bihi, for the object. In this particular case, yes, we have both. We have a fa'il, an ism that sat in the position of rafa, and then we also have another ism that sat in the position of nasb. So this ra'aytu, if I was to do the same concept, so we have ra'aytu created this position also, this position for the fa'il, and then created this position for the maf'ul bihi. Yeah, how many positions created? 2. Now who sat on the first one? This is a position of rafa, صح? For the fa'il, because we have جملة فعلية. جملة فعلية consists of a fa'il, of a fi'l that automatically creates a position of rafa for its fa'il. طيب. And then optionally, if there is the object, the maf'ul bihi, it will also create for it a position of nasb. Now let's look. This position here is a position of what? The second one. A position of nasb. Who sat on it? The word Muhammad. And the word Muhammad is responsive, right? So it showed the nasb there because it's mu'arab word. Here, with the position of this, the first position it created was a position of what? Rafa. Right? Because fa'il needs a fi'l needs a fa'il, and fa'il is marfu'. Right? So it created that. Who sat on it? This ta, rather. This ta, which is a type of ism, ضمير, pronoun, that doesn't change. So a mabni word sat in a position of rafa. Is this being a bit difficult? Yeah? I'll go through it again. Yeah. The reason why I'm telling you, you need to study the possible type of sentences, because you would want to know what is expected. If it's jumla fi'liya, you know that the instigator of the whole thing is the fi'l. طيب? The fi'l creates in front of it a position of rafa, because it accepts nothing less than a fa'il. Huh? So the fi'l will say, at least I'm expecting a fa'il. So it creates a position of rafa. And then if the ism that sits there in that position is ism al-mu'rab, it will reflect the rafa, and it will be marfu'. Ja'a Muhammadun. So Muhammadun here sat in that position, and that's why it's showing the rafa here. So the rafa there was created by whom? by جاء. طيب جاء هذا the same scenario. Why is it showing the رفع here? Because هذا is a fixed word. It's not responsive. So how do we communicate this in our grammatical analysis? We will say هذا اسم إشارة, and then مبني is fixed. But then we say في محل, sitting in a position of رفع. And then we say the role of it is فاعل. That's the فاعل. That's my فاعل. Even though it's not showing ضمة, but it's my فاعل. طيب? Because if you don't know this, you will say, okay, this is جملة فعلية. Where is my فاعل? I expect فاعل to be مرفوع. But I'm having this instead. What's going on? Does that make sense? This فعل رأيت. Sorry, رأي أو رأى. طيب? The فعل رأى created two positions in this position, in this second sentence. The first position is position of رفع, which is basic. For every فعل, there is a فاعل. So this one here is my basic component, which is the فاعل. And it's a position of what? رفع. And then here, this is optional. We have مفعول به. One of the options is مفعول به. We have other optionals, but in this particular example, there are two information, فاعل and مفعول به. طيب? This is a state of رفع, position of نصب for the مفعول به. And the first one is a position of رفع. So in the جملة الفعلية, that's why I want to know what جملة I'm dealing with. Because if it's جملة فعلية, I know where my فعل is and what it has created in front of it. And therefore, I can manage my expectations. What do I expect ahead of me? So in جملة فعلية, it will have one اسم that's مرفوع. One اسم that's مرفوع. طيب? After that, all the positions of نصب. طيب? Where is that اسم مرفوع? In this case, the اسم مرفوع was محمد. طيب? In this case, the اسم that's مرفوع was the ta. Muhammad here sat in the second position, which is the position of نصب. That's why it's in the position in the fatha. It shows fatha. In this case here, Muhammad sat in a position that was created by ala. Ala being an influencer, it created this. سلمت على yeah. So we say ala, I'll just take ala, and then it creates in front of it a position. Position of what? Jar. Right? And then after it created position of jar, we will see who sits there. If what sits there is an ism that is responsive, it will show jar. It will show the alama kasra or anything that's substituted. Huh? If it's not responsive, right? Like in the case of هذا here, it didn't show the kasra. But it's still ism majroor with ala. It was caused into the jar by ala. Is that making sense? Right? So this is something we have to examine and we have to look into before we can proceed. Now let's take this one here. I started with the fi'l there, with the jumla fi'liya, because my influencer was what? My amil was a tangible word, a physical word that is uttered. Okay? But here you would ask me, what is causing rafa to this one? Ism. Now this is again, we have an abstract amil, not a physical amil, not an uttered amil. Okay? What is the amil? The fact that it is the first word, which is al-ibtida. So what caused this one to be in the rafa? Is there a amil? There's no amil. Remember earlier when we did this, and we said there's nothing. Remember this? And that presented what? No physical amil. But there's a amil, which is an abstract amil, not tangible, not pronounced, which is the fact that it was the first word the sentence began with. That caused it to become marfu'a. Yeah. So this is to say what? We're still consistent, even though we have nothing before it, right? But this doesn't mean that this marfu' word was marfu' with nothing. It was marfu' with something. This something is the fact that it was the first word. Is an abstract influencer. Is an abstract عامل, not a physical one. Do you remember this physical thing and non-physical thing? Okay. And then this عامل, this word, even though الكتاب in relation to this one is معمول, صح? So this will be the عامل, and this will be the معمول for it, right? So this abstract position, abstract عامل, created that position in front of it. Position of what? A position of rafa. And now who sat on it? The word al-kitab. Oh, alhamdulillah, it's a word that is responsive. It shows the sign. So alhamdulillah, it's showing this. But if I said هذا مفيد, هذا would be responsive. It will not, but it will still be in the position of rafa. And you will still have to recognize that this is mubtada, right? Even though it doesn't have dhamma on top of it. Why? Because it's a mabni word. Am I giving you a little bit of an idea? Like all of this, we will cover it in detail, but you cannot proceed with having zero idea about all of this. Okay? So what did we say? Let's review what we covered. First of all, we covered, I'm going to go to a blank page. Okay? What we covered so far, before we got into the Jumla Ismiyah. First, we said we have 3 types of words in a sentence. To the right, we have al-ism. In the middle, we have al-fi'l. And to the left, we had harf. We said the harf is the easiest because it's always mabni. And then we said in the middle, we have fi'l. Fi'l is 3 types. Fi'lun madin, always mabni. Fi'lu amrin, always mabni. And then in the middle, we have what? Fi'lun mudari'. What about fi'l mudari'? Most of it is mu'rab, and only some of the time it is mabni. Yeah? So that's the middle part, the fi'l. The right part, which is al-ism, we said it is mu'rab in the most part, and it is mabni in some cases. And what we will do, we will go through each case, and we will see how it is mu'rab and how it responds. And with the mabni part, we said it is going to be demonstrated as well that it didn't change. Like هذا, for example, هذا is a mabni word. We put it in the template, and then we see that it didn't respond. Then we say this is what? This is fixed. This is mabni. So mabni word that is sitting in the position of rafa. Mabni word that is sitting in the position of nasab. Mabni word that is sitting in the position of, yeah. So these are the second category from asma. So ism can be 2 types. Right? You remember that image that I showed you earlier? You still clear? So that map is clear in your head? Right. And now for you to consider that also, we said that second thing you have to put in mind as well is Jumla Ismiyah and Jumla Fi'liyah. Jumla Ismiyah and Jumla Fi'liyah. Because they are the only 2 types of sentences you have in the Arabic language. Why do you need to do them? Because you want to set the scene. You want to know what you're dealing with. Are you dealing with, what is your mount? For example, is it a car or is it a horse? So you need to set your expectations in terms of speed or whatever. Like the same thing. You need to know the sentence you're dealing with. Is it Jumla Ismiyah? And hence, I'm looking for 2 isms in the most basic form. One ism that is marfu', and then another ism that's also marfu'. Right? And there are 2 positions of rafa. In the Jumla Fi'liyah, I'm looking for a fi'l, and I'm looking for a position, a position of rafa created by that fi'l, and then having an ism sitting there. Right? That ism, if it's mu'rab, it will reflect the sign. If it's not mu'rab, it will be mabni, fixed, it's not showing. Right? That's it in a nutshell. Without this brief idea in your head, it's difficult to progress. Okay? Alhamdulillah, this is recorded, and I would love for you to go through it again and again. And I made a point of not taking a lot of examples. One example is sufficient to show you the principle, the idea. Right? Anything you would like to ask me about these things, please feel free to ask questions. And never feel that you are expected to know it. You are here because you're not expected to know it. If anything confuses you, please do ask.
No, we said Al-Kitab. It's not four.
Al-Kitab.
It has like
There's عامل.
it's عامل, that's not firm. Because it's at the beginning.
It's the fact that it's at the beginning. Let me show you. Let me remind you of this.
I don't. Yeah.
Like,
I understand that part is clear to me. But you know, for
like this one here. We said يكتب فعل مضارع. فعل مضارع. Let's begin from the bottom. فعل مضارع مجزوم. What's the عامل for جزم here? The word لم. No problem. It's a physical word. It's an uttered word. عامل لفظي. طيب, now here يكتب in the middle one. What state is it in? نصب. في حالة النصب. So فعل مضارع منصوب, you will say. فعل مضارع منصوب. What caused the نصب? لن. Now it's the influencer. It's the عامل لن. Right? So لن, is it a لفظي عامل? Is it an uttered عامل? Yes, it is. So it's there. Now يكتب is فعل مضارع مرفوع. مرفوع. What's causing the رفع? We said the fact that there is no عامل of نصب or عامل of جزم. The fact that there is nothing before it. No, nothing in every sense. There is Muhammad before it. Right? But we're talking about in terms of influences. The two influences are either an influencer عامل of نصب or an influencer عامل of جزم. The fact that it had none of the two, لا ناصب ولا جازم, that means that in itself, this is a عامل. This abstract concept, the lack of عامل is عامل. And it caused the فعل مضارع to be مرفوع. So I'm going to ask you this question. This فعل مضارع مرفوع, is there a عامل for it? Huh? There is. No, there is. It's an abstract. Yeah. So in short, there is nothing that is in a position of i'rab without it having a عامل before it. Right? Let me say that one more time. There is no word that is in a position of i'rab, meaning رفع, نصب, jar, or جزم, without there being a عامل before it. So one of the questions that you always have to ask yourself, this is مرفوع. You have to say, what is causing the رفع? Where is the عامل? Oh, this is منصوب. What is causing the نصب? This is مجرور. What is causing? So there's always a cause. Right? And all the عوامل are لفظية. لفظية mean uttered عوامل, except in two cases. In the case of فعل مضارع, that is not preceded by لن or its sisters and لم or its sisters, the fact that it has none of them, that is abstract عامل, عامل معنوي. So that's the first instance where you have abstract influencer, عامل معنوي. Huh? The second instance of this is المبتدأ. I'll show it to you. So I know this is not the best thing. So this مبتدأ. So this مبتدأ مرفوع. What caused the رفع? It cannot be مرفوع or منصوب or مجرور except that there's عامل. So what causing the رفع here? Yeah, the fact that it is at the beginning. The fact that it's the first word in a nominal sentence, in a جملة اسمية. So when I look at the فاعل, I look at the المبتدأ here, the first اسم in the جملة اسمية. When I look at it مرفوع, is there a عامل for it? You have to say there is. Always anything that's instead of رفع. What are the possible states of رفع? Possible states of إعراب: رافع, نصب, jar, and جزم. These four, they must be caused by عامل. And it will be your mission to figure out what that عامل is. But in the most basic sentences like this, the عامل is clear. But when the sentence becomes a little bit more complex, the عامل will not be as clear. Right? But obviously, as we are beginning now, we are beginning to learn through the most basic form of sentences. And then we get into the complications later on. But what we can learn from here is every word that is in a state of i'rab, one of the four states of i'rab, must have a عامل. And always the عامل is a physical عامل or a لفظي عامل, an uttered عامل. When I say physical, I mean that it's there, it's written, it's sound. Or an abstract عامل, only in two cases. What are they? In case of the مبتدأ, where it has nothing before it, obviously, and in the case of فعل مضارع, where it's not preceded by عامل نصب or عامل جزم. Yeah, look at this sentence here. So I know this scrolling is not the best thing, but please bear with it. This is my whiteboard. So here we have a فعل مضارع مرفوع. What is causing the رفع here? The absence of عامل of نصب, the عامل of نصب, and the عامل of جزم. The fact that none of these two occurred before it. None of these two or their sisters occurred before it. This lack of عامل that causes نصب, or عامل and عامل that causes جزم, that in itself is a عامل. Right? So this is one of two instances in the entire Nahu whereby you will have a word influenced by an abstract عامل. That's the first one, فعل مضارع. The second one is the case of مبتدأ. This is the second case. المبتدأ مرفوع, but there is no words before it. What causing the رفع? The fact that there is, the fact that it is the first word in a nominal sentence. Yeah.
So for the normal sentence, I give it enough.
Yeah.
But for the fi'l, the fact that it's مرفوع, is it because it's fi'l at the beginning?
No, the fact for the fi'l مضارع.
No.
Let's go back to it. For the fi'l مضارع here, why is this مرفوع? It's مرفوع because in this position there is neither لن or لم or any of their sisters. The absence of عامل نصب or عامل جزم. So if I ask you, is there a word before this فعل مضارع مرفوع? I would say yes, محمد. Right? But what I'm saying, there is no عامل رفع, عامل نصب or عامل جزم.
So,
the
wrong thing, sorry.
Yeah.
I meant
جملة فعلية.
So for that, it begins with مرفوع as well, right?
جملة فعلية.
No. No, sorry, that you explained it right.
So this is جملة. Now forget about Muhammad. I just want you to look at the فعل مضارع. We have فعل مضارع in 3 sentences. This is our template sentence. طيب فعل مضارع. From the bottom up, the last one is مجزوم. This one here, مجزوم. What is the عامل for جزم? لم. طيب because of the presence of لم. In the middle one is منصوب. What's causing the نصب? لن. طيب this is مرفوع. What is causing the رفع? The absence of لن and لم. None of them or their sisters happen to be there. So that absence of عوامل is عامل. طيب so that abstract عامل caused the رفع here. Huh? Salman, you getting it? No. First of all, tell me, did you get this one?
Yeah.
This one you got it. طيب. What about جملة اسمية?
The khabar is مرفوع.
مرفوع. Yeah.
That is caused by
the مبتدأ. Yeah. مبتدأ. مبتدأ here. What is it? Can you excuse the scroll? What is it? The مبتدأ جملة اسمية. Yeah, here. Where is it? جملة. Yes, this جملة اسمية. طيب, we said الكتاب is the مبتدأ. And can you tell it is in a state of رفع? Yeah? You can tell it's in a state of رفع. What causing the رفع? So that's why I want you to get into the habit of whenever you see something in a state of رفع or نصب or جزم, you have to ask yourself, what is causing that? طيب. So the answer with regards to the مبتدا, what's causing the رفع is this absence of عوامل. Sorry. The fact that this is the beginning. That is the abstract عامل. Now, مفيد. What is causing the رفع here? The مبتدا. طيب. So this here have created a position of رفع. Who sat on it? Al-Kitab. And then Al-Kitabu created in front of it a position of رفع. Who sat on it? مفيد. طيب. Is this idea clear? طيب. Like I said, this will be delved into with much details, but this just giving you a touch, because without you having any idea at all, we can't progress in the book. Let's see in the book, for example, here. Basically, he's now ومثل الاسم ومثل الاسم في ذلك الفعل المضارع. Now, this forces us to understand the tree of words, the fact that they are اسم, فعل, and حرف, and then the fact that the فعل is split into 3 categories: فعل ماضي, فعل مضارع, and فعل أمر, and the fact that the فعل مضارع alone is the one that is فعل معرب, and the one that's to its left and to its right, ماضي and أمر, مبني. So now, if you don't know this, you'll be asking the question, okay, what about فعل الماضي? What about فعل الأمر? So there is some prior knowledge that is needed for us to be able to progress with the book, and now we've extended. Okay? So he said, he covered the ism first, and now he said, I'm going to cover the fi'l mudara'. Now you know why the ism and fi'l mudara' have to be covered when we speak about the states of i'rab, because they are the 2 mu'rab words in the Arabic language. Is that clear? I think we will have to stop here, but I really would like to not progress and not stop today unless you are really clear about understanding this much. Yeah, inshallah. طيب, and we'll stop here بإذن الله تعالى, and we will continue tomorrow from here, from this point particularly, inshallah. طيب. سبحانك اللهم بحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك.